back to another episode of Breaking the Line. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Taking a deep dive in the arts of mime and choreography.
I'm not sure what that was, but all right. So what do we got for today?
Well, it's been a minute since we've done this. We're actually a little behind our normal schedule because this is going to come out in 3 or 4 days from now.
Yeah, usually we have a month ahead, and today we're a day ahead.
And so we're welcome to October. I mean, we just got done with Project Understory stuff, and so we figured we'd do a couple episodes about October-y things.
Vaguely Halloween theme.
I was flashback to last episode near the end. I said that we are going to do ones that were kind of like things we did at performances, but then Charleton had a better idea. So we're doing that. And I'm going to invite you to join us. Because it's Witch's Invitation.
And we're witches, by the way,
yeah,
in this context.
So. Well, I mean, you're purple, we're matchy. He has orange shorts. We're all the Halloween things.
Yeah. This is definitely Halloween color.
Tell them about Witch's Invitation.
Okay, so Witch's Invitation is kind of a fun song that Alex and I wrote.
It's trash. And I'm sorry. Zeros across the board. Done. Breaking the line.
So anyway, it was literally, it was at mime camp. We were talking about how we wanted to do a duo mime, just a fun one to do together. Because, we like to.
Yeah.
And
you did every year.
Yeah, we wrote this the week of mime camp. I remember we were in a car going to get Little Caesars pizza, and we were listening to the song. Alex said he had some ideas. He wanted to throw them by me, and so we listened to the song. We're like,
so did you bring up the song first, or did he?
He did. He
brought up the song. I thought this was you.
No, this is him.
Interesting.
And so we kind of talked about it, worked through it, and it was really it followed the lyrics pretty well, so it wasn't that difficult to choreograph, I would say. And then, of course, we just added some flair to it to make it fun.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But another random little fact is Jairus Miller, he actually thought that we took this choreography from somebody else.
Oh, interesting.
But we really didn't. We just came up with it ourselves, but apparently it was just so similar to what somebody else had already done.
Right, story-based songs. That's not surprising.
Yeah, so it was pretty close to that.
2018.
2018 is when it was? Yeah, that sounds right.
The year I got married and graduated college.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That was an eternity ago.
Basically. Shall we? Well, then I'm going to invite you along into the song. You don't have to do anything. Just what it'll.
Yeah, it's just transition.
Witch's Invitation.
All right, so this intro part here was meant to kind of set the mood that this is not meant to be a serious song. Later iterations, like with Kaylee Leonard, she actually changed this to be more of he comes out to
white picket fence, suburban dad look.
Suburban dad kind of look, yeah. Which I think is better, but I still think this is just really funny.
We'll get into it later, but depends on your point. Either way, we know it's going to be a silly song to some degree.
Yep. And part of this song is it's all about characterization. You need to get into each character, and so Alex was getting into that, and then of course I'm this big arrogant warlock dude.
Yep, it's got good upstaging here to show the distance of you're not literally there. I feel like there could be other things you could add to this than make this part a little bit more than just him walking away, but ultimately it's whatever the character wants to do with it. If they want to keep it simple and just keep it facial expression, or if they want to do more mindy acting things like this, that's all fun characterization.
Yep.
It's the church's responsibility to witness. So reluctantly, I accepted this.
Very solid characterization.
Yeah, Alex had a lot of fun.
Well, and that's the whole point of this. The transition here, I feel was a little funny, but it wasn't horrible. It's just kind of I don't know. He fell into it. I don't know. I didn't catch that.
Well, it was supposed to be that he touches the envelope and then he's transported to the place, but I don't know if that was really effectively communicated.
Right. There's probably techniques you could do to show it. I get that something happened and that he didn't have to walk there. Doors. I hate mime tech doors.
Doors.
Well-trimmed beard when you're just a baby face. Yeah. It's okay. Mimes can do whatever.
Oh yeah, I love the like hand that takes kind of technique to get that going.
The door closes without you touching it. Now we'll get into some of this in the theology section, but classic Carmen, including some of these things that show the occultic things like D&D.
Dungeons and Dragons game. Oh no!
I mean, that was classic during that time where Christians were a little bit more important. And yeah, you shouldn't do dumb things with any board game, let alone D&D. But the point stands.
Right. Well, here, so we had a lot of fun with the sound effects. Like we had a lot of fun with like the way that this song flows.
This song is a long song and longer than it needs to be, but because it's kind of a story-driven song with the lyrics, the humor is what makes it so that there breaks up the monotony of just the setup.
Yep.
Because we're gonna get to a serious point later.
You say it's a long song. This is like an average Carmen song, you know?
Yes, it is an average Carmen song. The chant. Yeah, it feels like the comedy almost takes away from it, but if it wasn't for the point being made so strong later, making the point over and over again would actually be too good, or too intense. So I like the comedy spray sprinkled throughout.
And I also think it's really funny that this very serious, arrogant character does some really goofy things every now and again.
Right, without drawing attention to it.
Just feels completely natural.
Because if all that was intense, then this would have been overkill. But now we're going to get to the point. And I love the camera zooms in.
So this right here is really fun. We had to coordinate it really well that I could shove the chair, and so he like lifts himself up slightly to be able to push and pushes himself.
It's good, cool technique.
And then we get like an inch away from each other's face.
I was watching this. I'm like, oh, they're like nose.
Yeah.
But it's another cool technique where the frozen guy, he's not there anymore. He's just kind of monologuing, but he gets to stand up to show all the character what's going on in his head.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of fun with kind of making this more of an artful piece because of all the technique that gets added into it.
Right. Otherwise, you would just be like doing sign language. So this gives it that dramatic flair.
Yep.
Then a shaft of light shot through my soul, igniting my eyes with fire. God stood me up, and I threw the book back in his chest.
The book? You mean the Bible?
It's not a Bible. It's actually a notebook.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, that makes more sense. Looks like a Bible for a second.
The real comparison is the condition of your soul and the condition of mine, and you puppet of the devil.
No, and it makes the point very strong. It feels a little too long on the monologue, but I don't know what to do there other than characterization. This part adds to it. It's like, oh, it's not a two-man monologue.
Hey, guess what? We have extra people. we threw in a bunch of extra people, and I really like this effect that we have them down off the stage, kind of like clawing onto the stage. And also, if you look at the title of this song, it's called a duo, sort of.
Yeah.
And this is the reason.
And technically, you could do this as a duo without these people here.
Yeah, we had them, and so we were like, yeah, why not? You know, we can do what we want.
It also is really easy to add if you wanted to just throw people in last second. Like, if you had more people. But it still works.
Also, I really stretched my leg out so that way they could grab it, because they were actually like physically touching my leg.
Ew.
And I think it gave a really cool effect.
Demons go away.
And then in there's like this really intense moment that he's like, and Isaac is like, what? Wait, what are we doing?
Right. Point made. Serious idea hit. Now we're going to lighten the mood so that peace can go.
But that my name is written in the Lamb's book.
The Lamb
of life.
Enter courtroom.
Isaac jumped up from his chair and screamed, "You must leave now!" I says, "I will." But
that line is getting me. You must leave now.
You must leave now.
That's dialogue, but it's whatever. I feel like at this point the song could have ended like 30 seconds ago. Pun intended.
Roll credits.
Yeah, really, it's a roll credits moment.
I don't know. We had fun. I thought it was a fun song to do. I think people liked it, and maybe it's not the most theologically dense song, but we had a good time.
Well, It doesn't matter if it's necessarily theologically dense. It all comes back to purpose and message. Take it away.
So, Purpose, we wrote it as kind of a fun song for Mime Camp. Like, in its fundamental choreography origin, that was what it was for. Now, we did this kind of as a fun, break up the monotony kind of song to make sure that, you know, we're not doing like all serious ones. We want to do something funny. Like, there was kind of this trend that we had that ever since we did 8-Bit Jesus really early on, that we wanted to kind of like have those songs that are fun. You know?
Yeah.
And so
no,
this is that one.
Fun songs are necessary through the course of the lineup, so it's not just heavy. Even this song, being fun, has a serious section for a good little bit, but the fun parts of it makes that message palatable. So same idea with the bigger presentation. If it's all really super intense and crucify Jesus every song and as much crying and pain we can get, it's like it kind of loses the effect.
Yeah. And so like this one is kind of an interesting one because I wouldn't necessarily put it at the beginning of a presentation where you would normally put like lighter, easier.
Yeah, this is not opening.
It's not an opener song. I would put this somewhere near the middle as like a way to kind of break up the monotony, but it's also in some regards like a Christian response type song. Vaguely. I don't know if I would classify it that strongly.
It kind of has the Christian defense of the why you should listen to the gospel, because it kind of pulls up the wager of like, are you going to risk your soul in hell in order and reject this message, or are you open to hearing this thing? So I would say that's kind of where it falls for me, either beginning or just slightly before you get into the meat of your message. Especially in a long presentation, in the middle is a pretty solid spot.
Yeah.
I could also see this going into a public presentation where it's a little sporadic. The only problem being story-driven songs aren't good for public audiences where they have to sit there for the entire 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So it is a very niche song, in my opinion. Because if they're sitting down, I don't feel like it helps the Christian audience so much, you know? Like, it's kind of like,
it's one of those like, it's
an amen.
It's the audience roused, you know?
Which for me is kind of like, that's not why we're here. You know, encouraging Christians is fine. It's just like, I don't know. There's other songs that could do that while also being more practical application for the Christian.
Yeah, I knew it. You hate the song.
It's a fine song. It has an artistic moment. Like, you're getting ahead of yourself. Okay, what does it do well? It is artistic. It has all the elements of a mime technique thing that make it a really fun story without having too much dead time. Granted, you choreographed it in a week, so there's a couple parts of, as always, where I'd be like, let's polish that and make this better.
For sure.
And that's fine. We recognize everything can use a little bit more spit shine. But what it does, it has the elements that I like. My struggle is just mostly in its purpose of like where you're going to actually present this thing if you're going to make the effort. But cool thing,
Halloween.
It's a 2-person mime. I mean, but it's a 2-person mime, so 2 people can learn it, have it in their back pocket, and you can throw it in and sprinkle it in wherever you think you need it. So.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I'd say as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like its strongest point by far, which you also mentioned, is its technique. Like we made sure to add a bunch of little details. That was what I think was the most fun about choreographing this song, which of course we had a week. If we had, a year to do it, I'm sure we'd soften out a lot more details.
Totally.
But, in later versions, there were certain things that I did emphasize a little bit more specifically, like whenever Carmen's talking about the
later versions.
Crystal
Link down below for the one other version of this song. And
the later version, whatever. I think other people did it somewhere else. I don't remember. I remember someone telling me that they did. It's possible.
Down below in the comments if you've done.
We definitely have one other version. So in that later version, I actually had. His name is Alex, but it's not this Alex.
It's the other Alex. It's the same role, 2 different Alexes.
Correct. I had him actually like in the part where Carmen's talking about like he had crystal ball and D&D board game, Ouija board. I actually had him be more specific about like the staging of that position. So he's and then also like
seeing it, and
interacting with it. Yeah. So like when it's a crystal ball, he'll like feel the ball, and it's got like the technique there. And like, I told him to imagine like 3 bookcases making walls around the chair here, and then you got like the to kind of flesh out the space.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
And I feel like that was good. And then Sean, I had him who was playing Isaac, to flesh out the kitchen area a little bit more. And, like, okay, so the sink's here, the counter's here, there's a cabinet here. This is where you wash your dishes. This is where you cook your tea, things like that to kind of like flesh out the space a bit more. Did they do perfectly? Of course not. But like, it was like that attention to detail is what I really appreciate of like later version singular of this song. So,
All right. Then what would you change?
Everything's terrible. It's the worst song I've ever choreographed.
You used that bit before. You always use that bit where we get to, what could you do better? It's the worst song I've ever heard. It's the worst.
I never claimed to be original,
I'm more of a crispy fried chicken person rather than the original recipe.
Original is way better.
No, whoa. Crispy. No, crispy is the way to go. I don't even know what you're talking about. Mad people go for original, or people who like can have bread.
It's got a more full of flavor.
False. All right, so things I would critique is this guy.
Original game.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, we'll get some KFC afterwards. So anyways, what I would critique is mostly just the parts where there's dead time and giving more detail. So you've already started doing that and just putting more work on the characters. Not just relying so much on characterization that you don't have like specificity of movements or staging. And so it's mostly just adding more details to flesh things out.
Yeah. And this song is really like, I'll say slow paced.
Oh, very slow.
Like the music itself.
It's
I feel
dramatic.
like if you were to play this at like 1.1 times speed, maybe some things would go away. I don't know.
Wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah. So
making an average song face.
Yeah.
Be like,
double the speed.
It's a normal
so it's like
song.
A 4-minute song.
Yeah. We'll show you that version later. But I don't have many other critiques, mostly just because I don't know. My issues mostly with it tend to be on the pragmatic side, less than no, it's a good song.
The main critique I had, same thing. Dead space, add more detail.
Yep.
Okay,
which you can just go scene by scene and figure out what you're going to do to flesh it out. Because it's two-man mime, it's not like you have to restage anything. The stage is going to be the same spot. It's just if you want to have them spin around to do something, or I don't know. It's little stuff. Theologically, we already talked about D&D. You can play D&D, in my opinion, or if you cannot, this is a Christian liberty thing, so just do with that what you will.
It was really funny. I learned about this Christian D&D game that came out like in the 80s or something like that.
Naturally, because Christians are really good at making the substitute version.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Eminem, and then you got KJ52 or Toby Mac.
That's always how it goes.
Yeah.
And so like there was D&D, but like in a time where like the person who made this was like, I really like D&D, but there's such a stigma around it about it being, wizards and sorcery and stuff that
and legitimately people did dumb things with it that like they were basically doing occultish things, just saying it was D&D. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself playing board games. Okay, that's
just dumb. Don't.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah. And so like there was this, Christian version that came out, and it was like really indicative of that time period. And then this also kind of goes into that. It was really indicative of its time period, because this song is like,
it's in the 80s.
Yeah, that's like 40 years old. Yeah. This song is like 40 years
down
old.
Below, there's the link for the YouTube, actual music video of Carmen acting it in himself, and it is all the cheese you would expect. Man,
it's such an 80s music video.
It's so bad.
It's great.
Anything else you throw theologically? I like the point of the issue of the things with the occult, or like saying what powers God have, I can have all this power, would be the sense of the condition of your soul and the thing that ultimately matters, and getting into that serious message. That's a good part.
I do think that like even with all the cheese, it's like that I feel like is such an important message that like it can get glossed over because of the theme of this song. But yeah, like when it comes down to it, like it doesn't matter if you are, we'll say, neutral or like indifferent toward Christ, or if you are on the opposite end of the spectrum and worship Satan. The fact of the matter is still the same, that the condition of your soul before Christ is what matters. And ultimately, if it's not right before Christ, it doesn't matter what kind of power you had on earth through demonic forces, or if you just lived a regular life. What ultimately happens is you spend eternity separated from Christ.
No. And hopefully the lyrics don't tune off people, because it includes things like D&D. I feel like it would tune off the person. They're like, they're just being those radical Christians that throw away everything. It's like, no, but like there is still a good message to be redeemed here.
Yeah. And hopefully, maybe, this is just me thinking, Maybe some people just won't hear it, you know?
Probably.
And we'll just not think about it. You know?
Yeah, that'd be hope.
Just kidding.
Or we can have a conversation with that. But anyway, clarity, difficulty.
Style.
I invited him to say it. So anyway, get that bit out of here. Well, that's not terrible though. I was almost there. Almost went behind it. Anyway, clarity. It's clear. Like,
Yep,
it's the story-driven song. You're doing the thing. And it's not like a crazy simple message, but it's just dependent on the lyrics. So I don't know. It feels like it's going to get a pretty basic 8. The reason it gets lower is just because it literally is dependent on lyrics. But it's clear. It's a simple message in some regard, but it's not also. So 8.
Yep. And we think about our litmus test of like, if we didn't have the lyrics, would we still get the message? Feel like maybe not. And so I'd have to tack it a couple of points off as well. Nevertheless, I feel like the message gets across, except it can be a little bit like lost. You know, it's like 6 minutes into the song is when you finally get to the point of the song.
That's true.
And so while the song itself and everything is very thematic and like you can understand what's going on, I have to give it good points for that. I'm going to give it a 7 though, because as with all of its praise that I give it on clarity, it also like it loses those some points on its effectiveness of its message.
Right. Just how the song's working.
Yeah.
Difficulty. This is probably where I'm going to give it. It's closer to the higher grade because it's so dependent. It's a 2-person mime. Cues are all you, characterization's all you. You're gonna have to put all the work into basing this. I feel like Alex's character is probably slightly harder just because he does a little bit more, but like
he's more animated. Like it's meant to contrast like that. Where he's more like a frilly.
But he just has more speaking parts. Yeah, like you have one monologue, he has like 2 to 3. Yeah, mostly just because he has the opening section too. So overall, I'm probably gonna give it again. I was gonna say an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, for the same reasons, I was going to give it an 8 as well. Same basic concept. And I feel like the only thing that I would say in addition is like characterization is of utmost importance for duo mimes in general. Like, of course, I highly believe that if you can get like characterization, cues, and some other C thing that, you know, would sound really thematic, then you can do just about any song well, like your first try, you know. So using choreography, I don't know.
Yeah.
So between that, like cues and characterization, if you can just get those 2 things down for this song, you already have like 80% of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
characterization.
Cues, characterization, and characterization.
Yeah. Anyway, style
and recursion. Wait, no, sorry. And recursion.
So style, I'm probably gonna go.
And recursion.
There it is. All right. This is not a diss. You have good style. It is implemented well. Does things breaking bounds? I wouldn't say it's anything that's original to this piece itself, but you added style in it throughout. So I'm gonna give it a 6.
I think so. Yeah. No, I'm pretty well with you there because like. Talking about breaking bounds, these are the things of like, well, what does it do that's really unique? It really doesn't. It follows the lyrics really well. Granted, there's kind of like the structure of the building that I really wanted to implement. There's, you know, aspects of it that are like,
and there's nothing wrong with it. And like, how did you do the letter? You upstaged it, but that's done in other songs. It's like just taking tropes that do things well and using them effectively. So it definitely had style in mind, or rotated the chair. But at the end of the day, you could almost say the blocking was a little bit static, and so you could do some crazier things with getting people to move around a little bit more or doing things, but I think a 6 is appropriate.
Yeah. And then getting the extra mimes from off stage and throwing them on, like doing that like completely unforeseen. It was like a surprise, a group of 4 guests, you know.
Yeah, it's fine. So
there were things that I think were okay, that kind of were unique, but not so much that I would say, wow.
But again, there's other songs that pull in random people too. So.
Yeah. So I'd give it a 7, is what I'm saying.
That's fair. I think it's a reasonable score.
Yeah.
Got one more week for Spooktober. No, I mean, it really doesn't matter. For Reformation October.
Reformation October.
what, 500 and something years past Reformation Day, but good Christians. And all that to be said, we're going to be talking once again about the end of the world next week. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. Like literally be just watching this video on repeat until 168 hours from now, in which case we'll be watching that.
I'm saying.
I guess it'd be like 167.5 because you'll have watched this and it'll be like 30 minutes after when we will have released that one. So then you'll have to go like back in time 30 minutes. But that's also assuming that you watch this immediately
upon release.
When it's released, which is usually 6 a.m. in California time. But like, that's not necessarily when you'd be watching it. And so, if you ended up wanting to do that, that's great. I'm not gonna stop you.
But I wake up in the morning at 6 on Tuesday.
Yeah. To watch. And so like, if it ends up being that way, that's great. But like if you end up, watching it later,
he's Charleton
and
I'm Sam,
and then like, just
breaking the line.
take an hour or two off.